Have you ever been so insulted that you felt an instant urge to fight back? C.S. Lewis believed that true strength lies not in retaliation, but in self-control. In this video, we explore how mastering silence can bring wisdom, peace, and victory, not over others, but over yourself. Silence is often misunderstood. Many see it as passivity, as weakness, as an inability to stand up for oneself. But true silence, the kind that comes from wisdom and self-control, is one of the most powerful forces a person can cultivate. It is not about avoiding confrontation or letting others walk over you. It is about knowing when to speak and when to withhold words, when to let things go and when to stand firm. C.S. Lewis understood this deeply. He recognized that silence is not merely the absence of sound, but the presence of discipline, the ability to restrain oneself in moments of anger, to hold back in the face of provocation, to remain still when the world demands a reaction. This is true strength. People react instinctively when provoked. It is a primal response hardwired into human nature. An insult, a harsh word, a dismissive gesture, each one triggers a flood of emotions, an immediate urge to retaliate, to defend oneself, to prove that one will not be disrespected. But in reality, reacting emotionally does not establish strength. It only exposes vulnerability. The one who reacts is the one who has lost control. The one who remains calm, who holds their ground without giving in to the emotional storm, is the one who possesses true power. C.S. Lewis compared a person who cannot control their emotions to a driver with no brakes. A car without brakes is dangerous, unpredictable, unable to navigate obstacles or avoid disaster. Similarly, a person who cannot restrain their tongue, who lashes out at every offense, who allows anger to dictate their actions, is destined for destruction. It is not the loudest person in the room who holds power, but the one who knows when to speak and when to stay silent. The Bible echoes this truth. Proverbs 14:29 states, "Whoever is slow to anger has great understanding, but he who has a hasty temper exalts folly." This wisdom has stood the test of time, because it speaks to the core of human nature. Those who are quick to anger, who let emotions drive their actions, often find themselves making poor decisions, damaging relationships, and regretting words spoken in haste. But those who practice patience, who hold back their immediate reactions, are the ones who truly understand how to navigate life with wisdom. Jesus himself exemplified this principle. When he was insulted, mocked, and accused unjustly, he did not retaliate. He did not waste words defending himself to those who had already decided to condemn him. Instead, he remained silent, knowing that truth does not need to be shouted to be known. His silence was not weakness. It was a statement of strength, a declaration that he was not controlled by the opinions of others, that he did not need to engage in petty disputes to prove his worth. This does not mean that silence is always the right response. There are times when speaking out is necessary, when injustice must be confronted, when truth must be declared. Jesus himself did not remain silent in the face of corruption. When he saw the money changers turning the temple into a marketplace, he overturned their tables. When he faced the hypocrisy of the Pharisees, he exposed them. The key is discernment, knowing when silence is the wise choice and when words must be spoken. Silence is often the most powerful response to personal insults and provocations. When someone speaks harshly, they expect a reaction. They want to see anger, frustration, defensiveness. When met with silence, their power diminishes. They are left empty-handed, their attempts to provoke falling flat. Silence can disarm an opponent more effectively than any argument. It shifts the balance of power, forcing them to confront their own behavior rather than feeding off an emotional response. At the same time, silence should not be confused with fear or passivity. It is not about avoiding conflict out of weakness, but about choosing battles wisely. Speaking out for truth and justice is necessary, but not every insult or disagreement requires engagement. Many arguments are fruitless, fueled by ego rather than reason. The ability to recognize which battles are worth fighting and which are best ignored is a sign of wisdom. C.S. Lewis wrote that pride demands a response to every insult, but humility recognizes that human opinions are fleeting. Those who understand their worth in God do not feel the need to defend themselves at every turn. Their identity is not built on the approval of others, but on an unshakable foundation. When a person reaches this level of inner security, silence becomes a natural response to meaningless attacks. Anger is often the result of wounded pride. When someone insults us, it is not the words themselves that cause pain, but the perceived attack on our dignity. But true dignity does not come from the recognition of others. It comes from knowing who you are, from understanding that external opinions do not define your worth. When this truth is grasped, the need to react disappears. The insult loses its power because it cannot touch the core of who you are. This is why silence is so powerful. It is a refusal to be controlled by the emotions and manipulations of others. It is a declaration that one's peace cannot be disturbed by petty provocations. It is an assertion of strength, not in dominance over others, but in mastery over oneself. Yet silence is not always the right path. There are moments when speaking out is necessary, when truth must be defended, when the silence of good people allows evil to thrive. Silence in the face of injustice can be complicity. This is where wisdom is required, the ability to discern when silence is an act of strength and when it is an act of cowardice. Jesus demonstrated this balance perfectly. He remained silent when accused, refusing to engage in pointless arguments. But when the time came to speak, he did so with authority, with purpose, with truth that cut through deception. His words were never reactionary, never spoken out of anger or ego, but always guided by wisdom. C.S. Lewis understood that faith does not mean avoiding confrontation at all costs. It means knowing when to endure and when to take a stand. There is a time for silence and a time to speak. The challenge is knowing which is required in each situation. The modern world is filled with noise, arguments, debates, endless opinions. People feel the need to respond to everything, to defend themselves at every turn, to prove their worth through words. But the most powerful individuals are those who do not feel the need to be heard constantly. They understand that wisdom is not in the volume of speech, but in the timing of it. A person who can remain silent in the face of provocation is someone who cannot be controlled. They are not swayed by emotions, not drawn into meaningless disputes, not manipulated by the tactics of others. They move with intention, choosing their words carefully, speaking only when necessary. This is true strength. Science confirms this wisdom. Studies show that those who can control their emotional responses lead healthier, more stable lives. Anger and stress are linked to heart disease, weakened immune systems, and mental exhaustion. Those who practice self-restraint, who do not allow every insult to disturb their peace, live longer, happier lives. The ability to control one's reactions is not just a spiritual virtue, but a necessity for well-being. Silence allows reflection. When we do not react immediately, we gain time to think, to assess, to choose the best course of action. Rash words cannot be taken back. Regret often follows impulsive speech, but silence provides a buffer, a space to consider whether words are even necessary. C.S. Lewis believed that a person's true value is not found in how they respond to others, but in their relationship with God. When one seeks validation from the world, they will always feel insecure because human approval is fleeting. But when one's foundation is in God, external opinions lose their grip. The need to prove oneself disappears. Peace replaces the urge to react. True victory is not in winning arguments, but in mastering oneself. It is not in silencing others, but in knowing when to remain silent. It is not in proving one's worth, but in understanding that worth is already established. The greatest battles are not fought with words, but with wisdom.